Morning. Oh, hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Fire Rebuilds Design Professionals meeting today on Thursday, January 15th. We are hosting this meeting in person at City Hall. This meeting is also being recorded on our City of Malibu YouTube channel. So for those tuning in virtually, thank you so much for joining us. And a recording of this meeting will be posted on the City of Malibu's YouTube channel following the meeting. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll pass it off to our Community Development Director, Yolanda Bundy.
And welcome. Happy New Year. Thank you for everybody that is joining us here in person, but also those that are going to be here on YouTube, but also on the recording. We have a small presentation for you, and the way we're setting up is in a round table just to have a better connection. And here, this seminar or this workshop is being created to hear from you and how can we do best on our rebuild. So we will start. We have a small presentation, and then we'll go in a round table. And you can ask questions as I am going also. Next slide. We wanted to share with you a photo that was taken by one of the residents, and this is being used as the 1 year anniversary remembrance. The homeowner that took this picture is Arno from Big Rock, and we wanted it to also to take a moment to remember that it has been a year, and there's still a lot of work to do. Next slide. So where are we as of today? We have 148 permits that have been approved by planning, and we have 63 that are being in review. Only 68 has made it through the construction portion of the reviews, with 22 being approved, and 46 of them are currently under review. We also want to share with all of you that out of the more than 211 permits that had made it through planning, 203 are actually doing like for like. Next slide. There's an upcoming FEMA workshop that is happening. It's going to be a virtual meeting from 9 to 12. We are sharing all of the handouts. This is a very important workshop because it has the representatives for FEMA. I believe there's still some questions on beachfront properties. So please, we are sharing this information. Also, this workshop is being led by our Public Works department, but they ask us to share this with you. Next slide. I wanted to go over an item that, just a reminder that we are having conversations with some homeowners or some design professionals. On beachfront properties, mechanical equipment underneath the base floor elevation is prohibited by FEMA regulations. So please keep a close eye, especially all of you that are designing on the beachfront properties. Yeah, that part. To my understanding, it's right now just the mechanical equipment, but it's very important that you attend the FEMA meeting and ask that question. I would recommend ask the question again on the FEMA meeting because I want to make sure that we are in alignment of what they're stating per the regulations. Do you want to add anything on this?
Yeah, so what we're seeing for the beachfront rebuilds is that because the mechanical equipment can't go underneath and the property is already strapped for space, that people have to get creative with where they put the mechanical equipment. So obviously putting them on your decks, that's valuable real estate, and that's hard for some people to swallow. A lot of people put it on top of the roof The only thing about the top of the roof is you're still limited to the 10% height from the previous structure, and the mechanical equipment needs to be screened. A lot of times the mechanical equipment is substantial. It's not just one AC unit, what have you. It creates kind of a roof line in the sky. And so, as most of you probably know, our codes exempt certain things from being greater than the height that's allowed. Those are chimneys, some antennas, and things like that. Unfortunately, mechanical equipment is not one of those things. And so the city has historically always treated mechanical equipment on the roof as part of the height of the structure, specifically because it has to be screened and it looks like architecturally part of the roof line. So keep that in mind, that the mechanical equipment needs to meet the 10% as well. So when you're designing those houses on the beachfront, if you decide to put them on the roof, that you're keeping that in mind.
When you go through the planning review, that this is captured, we have seen one or two projects that are now going through building and safety, and the property owner is having to redesign some of those. So keep an eye on that. That's why we wanted to highlight. Next slide. The other thing that we are seeing also a lot is that new projects that are coming in as of this year, fire rebuilds. Some of architects and design professionals are thinking that they need to comply with the new current code. Just reminding everybody, the governor exempted the fire rebuilds from being updated to the new code. We are, as a city, we are receiving and all of the projects and reviewing under the 2023 code, which is the county code. Also, I want to make it clear that it is an option for the homeowners to say to their design professionals, hey, I wanted the 2026 code. So that does not prohibit, but we, as a city, we don't want to give the perception that we're not keeping it on with an alignment with the executive order. So just a reminder on that. We heard from a few design professionals that they did not know, and that's why we're highlighting this again, that in case you have a question and where this came from. One of the questions that I get on this over and over is if this has an ending date. As of today, the governor has not given us an end time for this projects.
But the fire code, the new one, that one is not exempted, right?
Yeah, that is correct. The fire code were not exempted.
And what are the main changes? Is the zone
I
0?
do not have it for you. Those are fire. The fire reviews in the city of Malibu are being conducted by our county fire. Maybe on the next workshop that we're having in a month, we can have somebody from the fire department coming in and give us an update. That is a good idea. Can you guys make a... Thank you. Welcome. Next slide. Just to give you an update, yesterday we hosted a geotechnical workshop. We started with a December 8th workshop because we had a shift on design professionals that were doing that review for geotechnical, coastal engineering, and environmental health. We have onboarding those new two companies. One is MB5, the other was it's Fina and Associates. We have Muffet and Nichols, and we have Sterling is Fox. Thank you. So with that, December 8th was a time when we met on this room with other geotechnical engineers just to hear from them regarding the existing geotechnical guidelines. We received some feedback during the winter break, and yesterday we were able to meet again, and the new consultants are putting together 3 amendments to the fire rebuild guidelines that are gonna we're gonna be sharing that with you later today. These guidelines are in regard of not requiring more borings in some of the specific situations. Yesterday, we can share with you the link of the meeting. It was a 2-hour meeting, but it will be a good, important meeting that you may want to take a look of what it was said. We talk about a lot of all of the geohazardous conditions that we have in Malibu, with 355 faults that passed through Malibu, and it was a technical workshop.
Yeah, definitely go watch that, because I feel that it was some of the better explanations we got on some of the geotechnical requirements and why things are needed, especially like in the landslide areas and things like that. And they really broke down, what can be used in your reports, what they're looking for in the reports. So definitely check that out. I think one thing, there's been a lot of criticism about that side of the rebuild and the review times, the geotechnical experts not meeting their 10-day requirements. And now that we have the two geotechnical groups, NV5 and FINA, that we definitely have the bandwidth. So we're going to be hopefully sticking to that 10 days. And if we don't, then please, let Yolanda and I know so that we can stay on top of it. But we're really confident that these two groups have the bandwidth to execute the 10-day plan.
Just adding to that, we want to acknowledge that our 10-day turnaround time hasn't really has been kept. We want to acknowledge that some of you had gotten corrections from architectural, structural, environmental health, and then it's lagging on the corrections for geotechnical or coastal. So we acknowledge that, and the reasoning it was onboarding 2 new companies that did not have the background on how the city was conducting those reviews. So everybody is now up to speed, and our goal is within the next 2 weeks to get everything up to the 10 days. For those that have been submitting your projects and had gotten partial corrections, what we're trying to do is set up meetings in the meantime to try to resolve those items that do not have anything to do with geotechnical. If you got a architectural correction or a civil correction or plumbing or mechanical or any other corrections that does not affect your foundation system or anything else, we are trying to set up meetings to address those in advance. Sometimes we have it in person, and also we can do virtual. I think the intent for this, and we have done it with some of you already, is continue moving forward with every fire rebuild and not have you wait for geotechnical corrections to come out. The structures also we have been able to work with some of you, are meeting with you. So the goal for this next year is to do more of that. Even if we have the 10-day turnaround time, I think what is being affected and what I see that is really making a difference is like have the meeting on one-on-one, go over the corrections, and you might tell me, this is a lot, or your consultants are giving me this corrections 2 or 3 times, and I already addressed this. It also makes the city better quality control and consistency on the type of corrections we're giving to all of you. So that is the goal for this year. I am at the Rebuild Center every Friday, but you don't have to wait to meet with me. We have different engineers that are already available at the Rebuild Center, and that has been the direction from us to those consultants or staff that is helping out, that the most we can do to help you mobilize a project or move it forward, that is intent. And so I wanted to hear from you any other type of possibly reviews or things that we can do to help you, help us with the many number of plan checks that we have right now. So if you think of anything else that is working or is not working, please let us know. I don't think we want to take this meeting as a criticism, and that's why I have you, most of you, around around in chairs, because we really want to hear from you what is not working and how can we do this best. We're going to continue having monthly meetings with all of you. Some of you keep in contact through text message, email. Some of you participate in all of our workshops that we have. So you are always invited, but we really need you. We cannot do this just the city, because we need to see your projects coming in. We need to be able to answer your questions. We need to be able to do things better, and we need you. Next slide. With that, I want to show to you that the progress that we have seen in some of the properties that have their permit already. This was the first home that got a permit during, I think, the August of last year. The seawalls and foundation systems are now being completed, and so that is moving forward. Next slide. The other thing that we have seen also is a home in Big Rock has already started framing. This was a partial reuse of a foundation system, and so that's also what I'm thinking, that it went by faster. Next slide. And this was the existing conditions on septic systems that some of our design professionals are observing and sharing also with us. We had a significant heavy storm during the winter season, and as a result, we have seen some of those partial systems being exposed now. Next slide. These pictures were shared by Andrew Sheldon. Andrew, you want to talk about it a little bit?
So just this last weekend, on Sunday following the king tides, I walked the beaches on East Malibu and observed that there were many systems that had been previously covered by sand and protected by the remnants of what seawalls had been there. A lot of these seawalls were wood, and most of the tops had been burned down about 4 to 6 feet. And the waves are now washing up into the wastewater system area and uncovering some of these. Now, all of these were already pumped, and I'm not sharing this to show an environmental hazard, but the thing is, if you have a report on the condition of the system that's a few months old, it may not currently reflect conditions now. And I do want to emphasize also, with talk of reusing septic systems, understanding the condition of the seawall is really, really important, because if the seawall that exists doesn't protect what's there, even if the septic system is still there and fine, it needs to be protected by something. Now, I also acknowledge the tremendous expense in repairing seawalls to current code. I would advocate for coming up with solutions for repairs that are considered a temporary in nature or a repair in nature, kind of a less than 50% repair situation where piles don't need to go all the way to bedrock and be keyed in, or something to reduce the cost of these, because it's not the cost of the septic system that kills it, it's the cost of the seawall. If you have to rebuild a septic system, the difference between a conventional and advanced septic system to rebuild it is, maybe 70% goes to the conventional, then the last 30 goes to the advanced. And I know there's been a lot of bad talk about advanced systems, why do we have to do this? It's really your seawall that's crushing people's budget. And I want to get people back in Malibu in their homes. I want the old Malibu to come back. And so if there are things we can do to further that, I'm here to help. I was talking to Rob DeBow about it this morning also, and he's interested trying to come up with something as well.
Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this. This is what's called daylighting. Is that right? Okay, so when I hear that term now, I know. So if I can do a timeline, the home's burned, they had the septic. Council, we passed, you can use it if it's operable. But now they're daylighting. So some of those people, those septics, they had sign off possibly that they were working, but now they're not in that same condition. So they're going to have to go back and probably get another permit or another inspection to see if they're operable. And then they're going to get the news that they're not operable. I'm just trying to understand what's coming for me. Now they're not operable, possibly after the king tides. So is that what I'm hearing? Thank you.
Unfortunately, the weather is causing more damage than we had before. And as far as seawalls and repairs, the conversation has been with several beach property owners. We hosted several meetings with homeowners that wanted to reuse their seawalls, and that is an open, the city is open, and we're finding ways to help them reuse what they had before. During the conversation last October and September, the communication with some of those property owners on beachfront was that the wet weather was coming and a temporary shoring or temporary solution needed to be put in place to try to avoid more damage to those systems. Unfortunately, not everybody did that repair. So as now the city being notified that this is a condition that we need to keep an eye on it. That's why I brought it to all of you. Next week, we're going to be doing an assessment and walking through all of those 320 properties and really having a better understanding of how many of these systems are having those problems. And the reason why is we want to start communicating with the homeowners to see what are the next steps and also make them aware. I believe some of those owners are not right now are not thinking on rebuilding. And so they took care of the debris removal and they might not be living in here. So as a city, it's important for us to do the recognizance of the situation and then start sending those letters or having the conversations with those homeowners. We will continue talking about seawalls and septic systems just because this is a recurring topic that I feel still has a lot to be evolved. And the reason why is that city still is doing the city council has directed the public works director to look into a sewer line. So that is still an item that is moving forward. I believe this project is possibly it's going to come through in front of city council in the next month or two. Our new acting city manager, Rob Duvall, might be able to share more information on that. But I kind of want to give you an update as we continue moving on this, where we are with things, how this is going to affect the homes that are being rebuilt. As of today, we're still asking that every project that comes in for beachfront properties still address sanitation in a way of a septic system, not requiring an advanced treatment system, but you need to address it. We're also seeing homeowners that on beachfront properties that want to do a little bit more. What that means is that they would like to have an ADU, a junior ADU within the square footage that they had before. So those projects are also moving forward. This type of projects, when you are augmenting the number of fixtures and are augmenting what the number of units that you had before, that's trigger an advanced treatment system. So that is going to be required to have a seawall. The other conversation with seawalls is the returns. We had before seawalls that were part of a communal wall, and now we're seeing that not everybody is rebuilding at the same time. So when you are talking to your homeowners, that's one of the things that I want you to highlight or keep in mind, that if your adjacent parcels are not rebuilding or not part of an existing seawall or proposed seawall, the requirement is to have the returns. So just keep that in mind. That adds to the cost. And that's what we're seeing people do right now, the ones that are moving by themselves. There's other homeowners that want to move together. So we are not trying to limit the way of your design. We're not trying to put more burden on the homeowners. I had several conversations, Andrew, with Dave Wise, that is proposing to reuse some of those seawalls. So we're trying to find solutions for that. If you have any specifics on seawalls, please come and see us. The other thing with a repair of a seawall, do you want to talk more about on what it entails for planning?
Yeah. So I also wanted to mention real quick before hop into that is for the communal seawalls that Yolanda was mentioning, there is an opportunity, like Las Flores Beach is a good example, where they had 40 houses in a row that were served by one communal seawall. And like Yolanda said, all 40 to sign up to repair their seawalls is, near impossible. So what they're looking at is maybe doing them in sections. And so what happens is maybe 5 in a row will, agree to fix their portion of the seawall. And then on those edges, on the edges of the 5 properties, they may have to build returns. And so we're allowing people to kind of get creative with how they want to do these designs. Another thing that we're also exploring is if, let's say you're not ready there to rebuild just yet, but you're part of a system. So out of those 5 that we mentioned, if 2 of the 5 aren't necessarily making the plans just yet to rebuild their homes, but they want to join in as part of the seawall repair, we're also, looking at that, at those options as well. But in terms of what is required for planning in the seawall, so I think a lot of you might be familiar now with the rebuild development permit, right? That is only an avenue you have to do if you do something more than 10% or something in a different location. So if you are doing a repair, or even if you're doing a replace, if the seawall was damaged or destroyed, and it's in kind in the same location plus 10%, that can still qualify as a planning verification. People are trying to reuse existing seawalls that maybe are just damaged, not destroyed. That can be allowed as well. You need an assessment from your coastal engineer to kind of go out there and assess that it's meeting all the requirements of the building code. But that is also something too. So just wanted to give that to the design professionals. It's not an automatic rebuild development permit if you need a seawall. The rebuild development permit is really to allow you to do more than 10% if you had to. So if whatever building code requirement is triggering you to raise the height of that seawall 20%, 30% than what it was prior, that's when you would use the rebuild development permit. But if you can repair what you had in place plus 10%, then you can do that under the planning verification.
I also want to remind everybody that wood seawalls are acceptable. The city also is not requiring that everything is out of concrete. But we are looking for your structural engineer, your technical engineer to suggest that. So that is not prohibited. We are open to see that, knowing that the cost is very high with concrete, but it needs to be designed correctly. It needs to comply with the code. When Andrew was stating about the depth of those foundation systems, are not really dictated by specifically by the city. They are state requirements on the code. So as much as we are proposing, I think we are letting homeowners and design professionals, if you can reuse portions of your existing seawalls, I mean, that's what we're encouraging. And we're not asking everybody, just give us a new seawall. But it also comes with your expertise and your other design professionals involved to make that decision for the homeowners and you having that conversation with them. Yes, Andrew.
Yes, Yolanda, 100%. The design professionals' creativity and ingenuity in how to reuse portions of what's there is critical to the success of this working. So thank you for that comment. I wanted to also repeat something I said about 6 months ago in one of the workshops, and it follows on to your comments about the public sewer. Why do you want to have a seawall if you're in eastern Malibu? I would encourage everyone to go and look at the properties that were never developed and where is the beach relative to the highway. What I see is the beaches eroding all the way back to the highway so that there's really no land under the parcel anymore. This is a big deal, and no one's talking about it enough, in my opinion, because when I came up here, I was taught that you need the seawall to protect your land from becoming public property. And the only way you can have a seawall is to have an on-site wastewater system. And there's a unique opportunity right now with the governor's order to be able to put back a seawall and an on-site wastewater system. That's going to go away after this rebuild's done. So there is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and this was something Lauren Doyle has talked about as well in private conversations, but this is kind of the best opportunity ever if you own property that was burned down to get back what you had. Because in the future, what I see, and you should really consult with a coastal engineer and a geotechnical engineer, which I am not, but I work with them a lot. What's going to happen if you don't put back a seawall to your beach? Well, it's going to become public property, at least for a large portion of it. And the proof is just going down, looking at the vacant lots that were never built, looking at certain beaches like at the old Chart House, at Las Tunas Beach near Pina Creek, where there's a public turnout, and other places. Look at the beach, what happens when there's no seawall there. It eventually erodes back to the highway and becomes a Caltrans problem, yes, but once your property is lost to the public, it's a big issue.
That was the first that I've heard of that, so that's interesting. I thought it was to the mean high tide line no matter where the seawall is. Ah, I see.
It's true. So, but for the moment, if correct me if I'm wrong, state lands is not involved with the fire rebuild, so we are entitled to rebuild exactly what was there before, regardless of where the mean high tide line is. So that affects in the world of no rebuild 100%. But for the fire victims, they can rebuild where they were before, regardless of where the mean high tide line is, regardless of where your seawall. And actually, the reason of why these beaches are moving so much is because of how many seawalls there are there too. So there's like, it's not totally black or white in this case, I think.
Right. And Luis, I understand what you're saying. And yes, the governor is allowing everybody to put back what you had, even without the seawall, but in the future, things can change. So the real history on this is in Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, North Carolina. Read the news, search your news app. Yeah, and just search the news and you'll see. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. There's a thing called the public trust doctrine that has nothing to do with state law, and the governor can't waive. It's old-time law that applies throughout the country.
So I think Andrew makes a valid point, And I would just say that yes, because of the governor's order, it is an opportune time to really, take advantage of the Coastal Act being suspended. If, for whatever reason you decide not to rebuild and your property is exposed, it is possible, as Andrew pointed out, the Coastal Act and also our local coastal program does not allow seawalls if they're not to protect an OWTS or protect an existing structure that is in danger of being subject to wave action. But yes, so it is very true that if in the future these houses are not built, they're vacant, and a new property owner comes along and wants to do a CDP, but now a sewer is in place, the seawall may not be allowed at that time.
So I have a question. So I have a project that's along Broad Beach that can connect to the sewer line, but they were able to do a seawall to protect the shoal. So in the future, when this sewer system is in place, I'm imagining that you will allow those properties to build a seawall to protect
So
the
there's
land,
two
right?
caveats. It's commonly just OWTSs because that's with new development, right? There is a caveat in our LCP that if there's enough evidence to demonstrate that the existing structure is in danger from wave action, it is also possible to get a seawall, but it's a harder finding and it's a harder thing to obtain. So if you have an OWTS, the OWTS is under your structure, and we will, the code allows you to protect it because it doesn't want effluent into the ocean. Now you're also building a new structure. New development has to be, has to meet FEMA, has to be, up to a certain height. So they're accounting for 100 years of survival. So if it is an imminent threat, and that would, in my opinion, would mostly be for structures that pre-existed today's time, because those structures would be underneath the FEMA requirements of current day. Those structures would be, to a point where they're not meeting the coastal engineering design. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is it's not a just a facto. You have to kind of show that the structure is in immediate danger of failing.
I guess I was talking about the future.
Yeah, and Tyler,
Like
correct
beyond fire.
me if I'm wrong, but I read a lot of news on this stuff. I'm a little bit of a news junkie, but Coastal Commission, if your project's appealed to Coastal Commission, their stance on this is generally to issue a permit that is only good for a certain amount of time and has to be renewed after 30 years or so, which takes away your permanent rights to have it.
The Coastal Commission does not like shoreline protection devices, so just keep that in mind.
Well, I want to ask a question regarding two questions for RDPs. I don't know unless it's okay to go back to the RDP, or you want to.
And I think that on all of this goes back to the price of those seawalls, right? How much investment you put in it, knowing that is part of your land, but also the protection of your septic system and durability. How long are they designed for? And that is the other question that is coming our way. So knowing we are waiting for the council to make a decision if a new sewer system is going to be doable and possible. And that's what we are considering right now, that those seawalls can be repaired, because we're not looking at those seawalls lasting 100 years, but they will need to be designed for at least 40 years. And that is one of the questions that we're getting a lot right now. But then again, the city is to have minimum code requirements and try to be flexible in any way to help the families. If you as a design professional, or if the homeowner wants to do something beyond just a timber wood seawall and they want to do concrete for durability, we are not opposed to that. So it comes it is a lot of decisions of the homeowners and the design professionals need to do. So just to keep that on perspective, the city also has a on-site protection device maintenance program that the city has replemented. Implemented. We are looking at those seawalls are so critical, and now they are being rebuilt or repaired. Know that this is also something that is coming, meaning we want to make sure that homeowners are aware that there needs to be maintenance to those systems because they are being exposed so close to the waves, to the erosion. So know that more information is going to come into that. And yes, Luis, your question.
The RDP, I think, is a great mechanism that we didn't have during Woolsey. It's saving a lot of time. We don't have to do the minimum waivers or CDPs for septic systems and required elements in support to the rebuilds. And also it's good. The fees are also waived if the owners qualify. I have two questions about RDPs. So one is, you mentioned, Tyler, about the seawalls. And if they are substantially the same, no more than 10%, same location, you can, instead of having to go with a parallel RDP, which is not a bad mechanism, you can bundle it up with a PV, which is even more efficient. So my question is and I asked this before, but I keep hearing the opposite. If your leach field or pits, they work, they pass the inspection, but the septic tank is old, so it needs to be replaced. Let's say it was a 1,200 gallons tank. You can replace just the tank for a minimum 1,500 gallons one, and if it is within the same location, it can be replaced as part of the PV, not requiring an RDP. So I want to confirm that, and if that's the case, environmental health always wants us to abandon the existing tank and put the new one somewhere else. So how can we do it? So that's kind of the one question. And then the second one, for the retaining walls, when you have a difficult, okay, I'll jump on it.
All right. So the first question, you can replace a tank, and if you had a substandard up to the minimum 1,500 that today, yes. The only caveat is in the environmental health division has always allowed, and the city has always allowed you, as all you probably know by now, if you get an OWTS not in the fire rebuild, you need a CDP, but you can replace one of the two functions, whether that be your pits or the tank, so call it half of the structure, and that could be done administratively. Now, when you replace both, then it triggers a new system, right? So in those cases, yes, you can replace the tank, but that's only if you did not already replace the pits or dispersal field in the first instance, if that makes sense. So if there's no record of that, if this is the first time that you're doing a change out and it's just the tank, then that is an option. Yeah.
And it's with the PV, so it's not an RDP, as long as it's more or less the same location, right?
Right, exactly.
And then another question with the RDPs for non-conforming driveways, that for some reason the fire department is, and they are being very nice so far, but before they haven't been that nice, and they want you to widen no matter what to the 50 minimum feet, and you need a retaining wall that happens to be encroaching slopes steeper than 2.5 to 1, which requires a variance. Are RDPs kind of waiving these variance? Perfect.
Yeah, we wrote that into the code this time around, which is another big thing that we did, because there was some people in Woolsey who the codes were written that you could get these things, but they didn't excuse you from other development criteria, one of them being slopes. So specifically for these retaining walls and driveways and things, we wrote in the code that you can develop up to 1-to-1 slopes, essentially. So something, if you have to cut if you have to cut into a 2-to-1 slope, does not require a variance as long as it's for the driveway. You can't just go cutting up your property, but as long as it's for one of these things, a foundation system or a driveway that's required from the fire department or from building code to upgrade, then yes, we are allowing you to do that.
So let me double down now. What about with a septic system that failed? You are testing a bunch of pits. Those fail. The only way to get a septic system is to have a subsurface irrigation advance that takes a lot of room. And there happens to be a stream with a 100-foot buffer ESHA, which if you encroach requires a variance. I had a couple of those during Woolsey. So RDP is good for that too?
So another thing we did, hope our council members are listening, because we did a lot of good work this time around. So we created a mechanism called, what do we call it? Development pad. It's been a while. It's March of last year. Development pad, is that what we called it? You would probably remember. No, we called it a pad, I think, because there was differences about the language. But anyway, so we created a mechanism, a definition for a development area, if you will. Development area is already established in our code, but it's more of basically if it's built on your property, and your dispersal field in your case is going into graded area that was already developed. Let's say it's a grass area, a lawn area, that is possible. Now, if it's an undeveloped area, yes, there might be coastal implications, but as long as you're in the previously developed pad, you're going to be okay.
And lately, the last one, RDPs, let's remember, those have been approved by the Coastal Commission, right? That mechanism. So it's kind of contaminated by the LCP a little bit.
No, so RDPs are strictly within the municipal code, meant for really the Palisades fire, but they can be used in other fires as well, because the Coastal Act was suspended. We did the same thing you get in an RDP, we also gave more in the DMWs. So for Woolsey Fire, for example, that's the Coastal Act is still in effect. You can get something similar to what we do for an RDP, but it is a DMW.
So for future disasters, RDPs will only be able to be used if the Coastal Act is suspended?
Or exempt. So if there's a CDP exemption in our LCP for that type of structure, then we would just go to the RDP.
Can I ask one quick septic-related question? Thank you so much. So, Yolanda, I think I heard you mention that in the case of non-increases to fixture or unit counts, that we might not be required to have advanced OWTS systems, but did I hear that incorrectly? Are there chances now for a non-advanced system being a new system?
The direction that we got from the water board is the same thing that we're doing for any other rebuilds. There needs to be an assessment of the septic system, the existing septic systems that can be reused.
If there's an entirely new system required, it must be advanced. Is that correct?
Right now, that's what the water board is requiring.
Okay, that's what we thought. Yeah, thank you.
And then I'll just add, Yolanda and I had discussions about it. You also need a constructability review of if you want to keep that system, is your project still constructible around it? Because protecting an existing septic system on a beach property, very difficult because of the heavy equipment that has to go over it to drill piles and so forth. But there may be ways, it's going to be case by case, is what Yolanda explained.
I think that I want to remind everybody, there's two-step process for, this is what I'm seeing a lot for beachfront properties. The home will go in through a PV, and then we have RDP for the seawall or the septic system. And so some of the homeowners and some of you design professionals have asked, how long does it take the RDP to be completed? Do I need to wait for the RDP to be completed in order to submit my plans to building and safety? Right now, we're doing concurrent submittals. The intent is not to wait for it to be approved through planning. It is to continue moving forward. So as you are talking to your homeowners and you are designing the project, we would like the whole project as a whole and not divide it into two separate submittals. Especially for building and safety, it makes it easier when we issue the permit to go into construction. So know that I think it's important that we continue repeating this, because I've seen some of design professionals, they're waiting to get an RDP in order to submit to building, and it's taking time.
Sorry, Marisa.
This just has to discuss what you mentioned about the State Lands Commission. I just dealt with them yesterday because I had 2 leases that need to be renewed in June, and they said even if you had one, you'll have to renew it once you've completed your construction. But the State Lands Commission will be going to all the fire rebuilds And if they didn't have leases before, and the mean high tide is encroaching, or the new structure, the replacement one's encroaching, and that goes to what someone else said about the erosion, they are going to require permits from them, leases from them, for the State Lands Commission. So I'm just throwing that out because I just found, they just told me yesterday.
That's serious, so I think it would be good to confirm, right, for all the homeowners. I was gonna ask the so it would be good to have a list of the things that can be installed and built under the BFE +1. So we're saying mechanical equipment is not allowed, plumbing maybe, may not, what garages they are, an elevator from the garage is...
That is so important to attend to the January 21st FEMA meeting. These are strictly requirements that come from FEMA. It is going to be in 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. meeting. So your participation is incredible, required to ask these questions, but we really want to highlight that mechanical equipment underneath the FEMA flat elevation is not allowed. The other thing with seawalls, and you might have seen the corrections from Public Works for your seawalls. It requires, since the seawalls are a new structure, it requires a variance to get approved through FEMA for the seawall. How we're going to deal with this, the ones that are currently under building and safety review, and they're very close to an approval. The mayor and I met with our acting city manager, and he has determined that we can move forward with an approval through a conditional approval. So if you're very close to getting an approval, your seawall is underneath the FEMA, it is under the base flood elevation, we will still process your permit so you can start construction. There is an item that will be coming to council to memorialize the ability to do those variances through the internal process, through the Public Works Department, instead of each one of the seawalls going through the council for an approval for a variance. So no, that's moving forward, and that is not becoming a roadblock or not going to stop you from moving forward. Next slide. The other item that I wanted to talk to all of you is Caltrans and the storm drains that are passing through some of those properties. We are setting up meetings with design professionals and the Caltrans representatives so they can discuss coordinate this repair of the storm drains and how this is going to be affecting the design. So everybody wants to be on the same page on this. I have a list of all of those properties that are being affected by Caltrans drains that passes through those properties. So I will be sending a letter to the design professionals that already submitted something. And if we don't have a design professional, we were going to be seeking the homeowners' information so we can have those conversations with them. The direction from Caltrans is that they want to start repairing those drains as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that those homeowners and those design professionals are part of the conversations. It's going to be affected by the design that you guys are proposing. Next slide. This is not related to fire rebuilds, but I know a lot of you do tenant improvements. We have been, per the direction of council, this past, I would say 3-4 months, we have been looking at all of our processes from planning and building to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. And the newest one that we have is tenant improvements. We are trying to facilitate and help all of our commercial businesses that were affected or not affected by the fire. How can we help them out? The best thing that we can do on community development is helping them with an over-the-counter review, with planning staff and building and safety staff, for those that are interior remodels, their minor work, less than 3,000 square feet, which most of them fall under this. So please seek, and I will send you the link to all of you to utilize this tool now that we have it for all of you. Next slide. And then just a reminder, we are going to be continue having design professionals meetings. The next one is set up for February 11th and the one in March for March 11th. We also want to mention in this meeting that Habitat for Humanity will be hosting a meeting with them on January 28th. And we will also have the assessor's office coming in on February 25th. But we also want to hear from you, since you are talking to a lot of the families, what else is needed and information so we can host or bring those agencies to provide more clarity or help to those homeowners that needs it. And with that, we still have time for a round table, and if you want to ask more questions regarding something we haven't covered, please do so. Okay.
Can I ask a question to Tyler? Can you follow up on your comments about community seawalls? Because I can foresee that there's going to be a sequence and timing issue for the permitting of the individual homes, and we're going to have to create an assessment district or some sort of HOA, and how can we get this community seawall permitted ahead of, say, one or two of, say, a group of 6 or 7 collective homeowners in a row that aren't yet permitted with their house, and essentially then permitting this accessory structure to a dwelling that's not yet permitted?
The only ones we've really explored are for those who are doing basically repairing what they had. And because the system was already in place, then we are exploring that option, because even though there might be parcels that are vacant, the existing wall was integral to the protection of the other homes. And so we're just throwing that out there, that in the case you cannot get everyone to buy in, there's alternatives that people should be looking at to, even if it's 2 or 3 homes that want to buy in, and it used to be 10, it's an option that you can kind of do if you can get all the homeowners to buy in and work out all those details that you mentioned. We do still require all the owners to, sign the affidavit, so all the owners involved. So imagine a project that all 3 owners will be co-applicants of.
Something to this, because we got that question this week. So yes, the intent is to, for those existing seawalls that can be repaired, the city is going to do anything and everything to keep those seawalls. Having said that, just like Tyler mentioned, the property owners do not need to have a home submitted when there is an existing wall that can be repaired. The condition of issuing that permit of that repair for the wall without the home is that when the project comes in for the rebuild of the house, including the septic system, that wall needs to comply with what that code is going to be. Let's say we are all in the same wall. I decide to move forward and rebuild, and all of you have agreed to do your portion. Let's say Luis says, okay, I'm going to put the money to repair the wall, but I'm contemplating selling my parcel. At that time, when that property is coming into building or even to planning, we're going to be asking that wall complies. And so might need to be modifications being done to it. So by stating this, we're not just grandfathering a wall that might not be compliant, because that property can stay open for 5 years. And year number 6, okay, I got a permit now. oh, I got the money, I'm going to start working on this. So that is that condition of issuing a permit to repair that existing wall.
If you came in and none of the homeowners were going to rebuild, we haven't exercised that yet. But if a couple of them are going to rebuild because that communal wall protects the OWTSs that are going to be replaced, that's what we're talking about. And that's what we're considering.
But in terms of problems in 3 years, code changes. If that wall is built to today's code, I mean, in 3 years, I keep repeating this, there's going to be a new code cycle that we don't know if we will be exempt or not. But as long as the BFE doesn't go up and there's a new assessment, it should be okay, right?
Not guarantee. And so we want to make sure that that condition is there.
I just wanted to mention two things. One, everybody should be aware the city is looking into the possibility of a sewer for all the beachfront homes. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you're attending those meetings. Make sure you're on the notification for those. We don't know how quickly it's going to go. Our hope is that it will get approved and be installed quickly. But obviously, there are going to be homes that are going to be relying on their septic systems until and when that actually does happen. So it's not a guarantee. The city has not voted 100% to go forward with that. But I just want everybody to make sure that you are aware that that is a possibility on the horizon also. So when you're contemplating these things, make sure your designs are appropriate for that possibility. That there will be, if it is approved, there will be a lateral that will need to be installed from the property to the potential sewer connection and everything else. And then let me just say one more thing. I also, with regards to the FEMA does have a handout about building utilities and how to design them. And it's the PDF. It's FEMA P348. So it's a 178-page handbook that I highly encourage everybody who's doing a beachfront property to consult with.
I talked to Norm about that issue, and he had said that there's a possibility of having a holding tank, a stainless steel holding tank.
Those things are moving forward. That has not been agreed with the water board. We're waiting for things to. This is a very fluid process.
I get it.
And so I'm being very cautious.
Yeah.
The possibility could be that, but I don't want to state and give promises that might not be until we have the conversation with the water board.
Makes sense.
There is conversations going on right now with the water board, but there's no agreement until the city council stating this is a viable. It's moving forward. We have the funding. This is the time frames. And that is the direction from the water board. That's why we want to be cautious.
Great. Thank you.
In regards to the sewer, it could take quite a long time. I know that we're still waiting for phase 2 in the colony. But would it be in the designer's best interest to think about putting a sewer lateral in now as a future, as opposed to tearing up the property after everything's already constructed and 10 years down the road they get?
Yeah, and these are the questions that we're asking sometimes in plan check, because if the intent is, we still need to go to council, but it seems like everything is lining into it's going to be a sewer line. The laterals are going to be required on your plans for the future connection. So know if you get that correction, or if you haven't gotten, you need to be proactive at thinking ahead for those homeowners. And those that have gotten an approval right now, you can always come back for a revision. So we are contemplating that needs to be put in place while they're rebuilding their home. Any more questions? Comments? How can we do things better? What is that you guys hearing? Do you need help with any of your projects? Do we need to set up a meeting? How can we help you, help us, and help the community? I think that is, to me, the biggest thing right now. We have 22 permits, but I need your help getting more approvals, and so how can we do things better? And like I mentioned at the beginning, don't think we take it as a criticism. We want to do the best for our homeowners. So
I think you guys are doing great with the fire department. Thank you. Hire more plan checkers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we are architects about to file a building permit application for a rebuild on Big Rock, just within days, I think. And one quick question about procedures. Will we tend to get corrections back by department from you guys, or will they all come back at one time?
thank you, and thank you for submitting. What we're seeing right now is as soon as there's different departments that are reviewing, as soon as they are completed, they're sent to you right away. So you can start working on them. The one that is taking a long time is Geo. But we are hoping that within 2 weeks we'll be cut up. So hopefully when you submit, we're already cut up. So you're going to be hearing either for MB5 or Phenom, depends on where the project is.
And the 10-day response time is what your goal is for the various departments on non-Geo?
Yes.
Well, and then also Geo.
And Geo too.
Once they get up to speed, which is within the next week or two.
Geo and Coastal. Yeah. They can review 5 days, and then, like I mentioned here before, if you got let's say you submit next week, and you get your corrections on 10 days after, if you start looking through your corrections and say, I can take care of this in a week, you can call us for an appointment and start taking care of some of those items while your other design team is taking care of other items.
Even after the first correction?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're trying to get to a point that, and I have talked to many of you about this, as soon as you get the first approval, you should have a template, especially on architectural corrections, or what the city is gonna give you, like smoke detectors notes, dark sky notes. All of that should be part of your plans. The city also has created different templates and handouts to be used if you would like to use for your plan check in order to avoid more corrections going back and forth. The ones that are taking a little more time is your structural, it's the more detailed process, right? Your civil plan, your drainage. So make sure that there is coordination between all of your geotechnical, your structural, and your civil. And those are the corrections that I'm seeing over and over again. Sometimes there's no coordination or something is missing. And but I think we have a good plan to move forward, and please utilize that over-the-counter recheck time to continue moving forward and to expedite this process.
Are the 2 Type 5 sheets still available?
Yes, they are. Thank you for asking.
Okay, there's 2 items. I think you already answered these questions, but I just want to clarify my understanding. The first one is about the concurrent plan check. A lot of the projects I'm on have PVs, but they haven't had a detailed coastal or geo review yet, and they're sort of waiting to submit their RDP to get that. And I think what I heard you say is if you want to move the process forward, you can submit into building plan check based on the PV. But there's an at-risk component to it. Could you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, and there's a risk component, right? And so we're trying to find ways to utilize, and that's what we're counting on your professionalism to make the right decision for the homeowners. If you feel, my seawall is going to be a repair, they're going to reuse the system, or I'm going to have a new system, and I have a very good team that I can work with, I feel confident moving forward, move forward. If you decide, I'm not sure how my coastal, because I'm hoping that you guys are reading your coastal engineering reports before submitting to planning. So you already know a lot of the answers on that report. But as a city, we don't want to hold back on not allowing you to go through building and safety until your RDP is approved, because also that will take a little more time. So it's to your discretion and your advice for those properties.
I would say too, once you get the PV, the RDP is lower risk of change, right? Once you get the PV, you basically establish like the big item that needs to be taken care of, and you've kind of set that in stone. So the RDPs are usually for retaining walls or for an OWTS, and so there is the risk that once you get into plan check, there could be changes from when you first submitted, but it's much less risk than submitting your house, which we still encourage your house also. If you're in a good place, even before the PV approval, let's say you need a site plan review because you have some stuff above 18 feet, we still encourage you, if you're like pretty confident, like, hey, all I have left to do is go through this 21-day review process, noticing process, but I'm pretty confident that, you know, my neighbors aren't going to complain or what have you, then we're also allowing you to do plan check then too.
Thank you. That did answer the question I had. And then the second one was about the group seawalls. What the big takeaway I got from what you said, Tyler, was that, say you have a group of owners, each one of them has to sign the affidavit. And you were talking about the affidavit of acceptance of conditions. And so there's going to be a list of conditions that every owner has to agree to. So again, Yolanda's analogy of the line of us sitting here, if Luis isn't ready to go forward, but Ryan's ready to pay his way just to get the project moving, that could be done, but on the condition that Luis sign the acceptance of conditions affidavit.
Yeah, and so we do a little bit of preliminary to make sure the homeowners are like going to buy in at the beginning too. We're not going to accept an application if we don't have a preliminary, like a letter of authorization, if you will, that at least you guys are all agreeing to come into this together. But then, yes, you do all need to sign the affidavit also at the end. But we wouldn't accept an application where maybe Ryan didn't sign the letter of authorization. There would be a gap in that project that we wouldn't be able to accept.
The other thing to add to it, constructability, right? Let's say the application came through the planning department for our 5 parcels. There will be one application for the 5 parcels. When it goes through building and safety, there will be a permit for each one of the parcels issued. And also the expectations and conditions is that the work is going to be done at the same time. It's not like, okay, Tyler and I will do our work first because our homes are already about to get approved. We're going to get out there and we're going to have our contractor work on our portion and we don't care about the other ones. Everything will need to move together.
Guys?
Construction start also, like you get your approval for your house, you don't have it for your seawall and your septic. Can you start building the house before, or in order to issue the permit, you have to wait for all the RDPs to be approved?
We are avoiding to issue in partials for beachfront properties because of the complexities. You need to have an encroachment permit for Caltrans if you're gonna stage equipment or materials on PCH. So we are trying to accelerate the process all as one, especially also when we are doing construction on beach. So what we have seen is you have that retaining wall that is right next to PCH, and then you have the feature for the seawall, and then you have the component for the septic system. What thing on constructability we are seeing, and we're asking for shoring permits or on how that is going to be built. So think of constructability first, especially on beachfront properties. Have your engineer, have your geotechnical go involved. Do a site visit, the 3 of you. Analyze, do we have enough space to storage? How everything is going to be done? Where we're going to put the drill? Just think of everything. We are I think on this one, on this fire rebuild, is so different than anything else that we have done. And in order to avoid delays, we are thinking backwards, and you are going to see a lot of questions that we're asking. And how are you doing this? How are you going to build this? Do you have the space? Where's your shoring plan? Did your geotechnical give us information on that? That your structure is working with the shoring engineer on this? So it's a lot of steps, but the reason why we are being extra cautious on this to avoid delays and knowing that this is sometimes is tied to an encroachment permit by Caltrans. So it's a lot. And that is why the conversations would, instead of just submitting a plan and waiting 10 days or coming back and, oh, I finally got an approval, come to the city or having the conversations with the inspectors or having the conversations with your contractors, trying to figure out the best way for you guys to rebuild it and the families to rebuild. Specifically for beachfront properties, I highly recommend that is something that you take advantage of.
But to confirm then, you cannot pull your permit for your house until the associated RDPs are approved.
That is correct. We are doing everything at one.
I only have one suggestion. It depends on the style on each one, right? But I think it would be very good for transparency and accountability for owners, not only to be able to be in the development portal assigned to their projects, but also that corrections, instead of being sent via email and copy a lot of people, that the corrections are posted in the development portal and there's a date associated. So it's very clear. You go there and you see, okay, I received this correction. It's on me as the architect. And it's been taking me a couple of weeks to coordinate, but now I responded on this day. And then, so instead of, because it's only a way in when we submit, but the way out is via email, and it's kind of, it can get messy very quickly.
Yeah, and the reason why we do not have it currently that way is that we do not have a software system that is automated. We will take into account your suggestion. We'll work with Lori and see what we can do. But yes, I think for me, besides accountability, is what else can we do to help these families? And I know it's a lot. It's very complex. But anything that you think that we can do better, or we can help you in all of your submittals, on your reviews. If somebody's late, don't wait 20 days to get frustrated, or don't wait a month for you to get frustrated. That Rebuild Center is open every day from 8 to 4:30. I am there Fridays, but also Tyler and I are always open, and you can go to that Rebuild Center. There's consultants from not only building and safety, planning, and you have planning and building and safety staff there. You have an environmental health, public works. Now we have Caltrans, fire department is there. We're going to be incorporating as construction comes over, the gas company, Southern California Edison. So when things go more under construction, you are able to ask all those questions there.
Quick question. I'm not sure if I understood what you said. You said basically to go, when the comments comes back, they go to our portal. So we have to go to portal. We have to check portals.
No. Obviously, there will be an automated email that gets sent.
Email is super crucial, because emails I will see, but I'm not going every day to portal to check my if I got corrections.
So there will be an automated email that, hey, go, we posted the corrections.
Don't kill the email, please.
There's one other topic that I just remembered we haven't talked about, and I see it confusing a lot of people, a lot of architects and engineers on projects that we're on the beachfront, is the existing retaining wall at the highway. What needs to be done about it to evaluate it or just design around it? Can you just remark on how the questions you're getting and how you're answering them?
Thank you for that question. If you have an existing retaining wall that is right next to PCH, we are going to require that you do an assessment of it. It is part of the, sometimes I have seen designs that are incorporating that wall as portion of the house. So it is up to your design on how do you want to go about it. I have seen some design in which the retaining wall is going to be left like it is, and there's another wall right next to it for the new home. But it is required that an assessment is done for that wall, just because it is so close to the new structure that is being done. With that said, we also found that there is a portion of those parcels that we lost, that retaining wall is owned by Caltrans. Caltrans is already looking into shoring them. They have their engineers out, and that information, what parcels are, it's being shared with the city, and we are having those communications directly with those homeowners. It is a handful. I'm not gonna say it's 20%, 30%. It's a handful, so it's not a lot. The other thing that Caltrans has stated, that at this time, if that retaining wall is on the owner's property, they are responsible, our families, to take care of that wall.
Okay, and then, sorry, just one quick follow-up question. This may be kind of technical, and it's okay if you want to pass on it for now, but can these retaining walls and a seawall be joined together as one structure?
Engineer is able to do the assessment. There, it can be reused and provide something. Yeah, we have. I mean, like, we are not limited. We're not saying don't utilize the wall. You need to be justified, and so that's why we're so grateful that we have some great, outstanding structural engineers, civil engineers that are thinking out of the box on how to make things better for our families. And yeah, it could be done.
In terms of the properties that you mentioned that are assessed, that Caltrans owns that portion, as well as what you said earlier with the drainage that's going through, and you're actively reaching out to clients and architects or design professionals. If we're in the early stages and have not yet submitted anything, but we're working on designs, is there a place to go to search properties that we're working on but have not yet submitted to find out if either of those apply to our properties?
Let me talk to Caltrans to see how much of that information they want to share, just publicly. This information was just shared with the city, and that those letters are going directly to your homeowners, so your homeowners should have that information. But if you have any questions, I mean, if you can give me the address that you're working, I can give you feedback on it. On the center. They're coming in every Tuesday from 9 to 2 p.m. I show in one of the slides, which we can share with all of you, the Norman is the person that is there. We're getting another staff member in there. So yes.
I was just going to say that's both the drainage as well as the, okay.
To go back, so there's the retaining wall at Caltrans at PCH that residents that they have to flip the bill on. Only if it's on their property, even though it's shoring up the highway. So they also have to do that wall as well as the seawall. If they potentially. And Caltrans isn't saying that because it's their highway, they would chip in or.
So most likely that wall that's buttressing PCH right now doesn't go down deep enough to meet the scour line that your wave uprush engineer is going to determine. So so in the absence of a community seawall, any individual property is probably just going to have to build a box, and that box is going to contain the septic at elevation X prescribed by your wave uprush engineer, and then the back wall of it is going to have to maybe carry on a little higher and buttress PCH, plus also maybe grab your garage slab, for example.
those are either separate walls or one wall, depending on how your structural engineer sees best fit.
Yeah, I think we want to be careful and not generalize about those walls. There is different situations, and I just want to be careful that we don't start. I don't want my families to get scared for what it was stated in here. If there is an existing wall, it's going to be reused. It's going to be part of the structural system. It's going to be part of the seawall. The assessment is going to be required. The reason why we're asking for an assessment is that during the fire, some of them, and even to the debris removal, some of them have, because I have walked that portion of the beach, some of them have damage. So they need to be fixed prior of a new home being built. And that is the whole reason. It's not the intent that the city is now like, you need to build a whole new wall to retain PCH. That is not the intent. This is just for safety and for you as a design professional to acknowledge there is a safety elements that need to be taken care is done right now and not wait 5 years, 10 years, and now we have a bigger problem.
Just to expand on your point is, for example, you said in the community seawall discussion where, say 3 people are going to build, but 2 in that gap may not build for 10 years, may not build at all. At some point, isn't there a safety requirement for Caltrans to take ownership of that and make sure that that PCH doesn't? Yeah, I mean, because it's a system that has to be continuous, right?
I will say thank you for the comment. I cannot elaborate on this. This is legality, and so I want to be very cautious about it. It's not that the city is not keeping an eye on it. It's not to say that Caltrans doesn't have their engineers out there every day. The information with Caltrans is a weekly meeting with them, and they are stating there, and the engineers are aware of it. What the future brings to us, I do not know, but have for certain that the city and Caltrans will make sure that this doesn't just happen and everybody forgets about it. About who's going to pay for it, I don't know. I don't know if eventually Caltrans will pay for it or will be something that we work with the families. I do not know. And so want to be very cautious about this type of conversations.
And just a little thing I want to add is that not every property has a retaining wall on the highway side. There are some that have embankments that come down off the highway, just a slope that comes down that's still competent. It's still functioning as intended.
Your city would not, Caltrans would not let PCH just go. So we are going to be keeping an eye, and it's being kept an eye. But we need all of you to help us on this rebuild, and it is not an easy task ahead. It is not. But we need you to be our eyes and also our ears. If you hear from homeowners that are having difficulty, and I mean, there's things that we haven't even heard from homeowners. So however we can continue helping out, the city is committed for that. Yes.
It's good to see that you're now focusing on the RDPs because, I mean, personally, I found that has, with the coastal and geotechnical reviews, that has been like a problem. And it's having that feedback would have been really important, within the 10 days. So if you can, I can talk to you after. If you could just sort of kind of make sure 2 of my properties that I've been waiting for, I submitted on the 23rd of October. We can kind of
Yes. Please give me those property addresses.
I have a trio of houses, and there's a 4th building designed by Paul Davis that we're going to share on a seawall. And we're getting our PVs back now. One's approved. The other 2 came back with completely different notes from Public Works. We have Moody on one and Kevin on the other, and they're almost contradictory. I think someone should just take a quick look at those.
With both of them? And let's resolve it.
Okay, very good. Another very quick question for you. I'm getting my corrections back on some of my building plan checks. And there's the usual multitude, and we're going to address that all, structural, civil, MEPs. But if there's additional comments that come back, is it all right if I print out my final corrections and bring them to you on a Friday? Should I make an appointment first?
Yes, are you available Friday?
Not this Friday, but
Okay.
but next Friday,
week,
yes.
9 a.m.?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
ready to make the appointment right now.
Okay,
We got to
let's
see
do
what
it.
they're doing in the office.
Okay.
We have a question on Zoom as well from Janelle. Janelle, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and speak, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Okay. So my question is regarding the community shoreline protection devices. There's a few places that I have rock revetments, community rock revetments, permitted, built, and eventually will need work, need to do this, that, and they are getting together to get on the same page. My question is, let's say we'll just take an N person decides they don't want to rebuild anymore, and therefore their portion of the existing rock revetment will not be taken care of. Will we be able to come to the next property that is the end and continue to put in the rock revetment there, or will we have to build a shoreline protection, a bulkhead wall as a return?
It's a complex. I know what project you're talking about, Janelle. We should probably
I can't hear
meet
you
with.
guys.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Janelle, can you hear the speakers?
I can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me, yeah.
Yes.
You have a peculiar situation. The only thing I would say, big picture wise, as we mentioned before, is if there is an owner that does not buy in, and you do need a return of some sort to protect the OWTS or the series of OWTS, per the coastal engineering recommendations and the coastal engineering reviewers, then that might be something you need to work out. That's all I'm going to say. But in terms of revetment for seawall, we're going to have to, if you do need to have additional shoreline protection devices, I think right now we agreed to repairing the rock revetment that was previously there for that site, for those sites. But if you need additional shoreline protection other than the revetments, then come in and talk to Yolanda and I so we can hash that out with you.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and the reason why we don't just want to answer, yeah, you can do rock revetment, we really, it's a side-by-side situation. We really need to be careful on answering those questions quickly and just provide
I
more
understand.
information.
I just wanted to make sure, it's out there, because we're gonna end up having this problem in a couple of different places.
Come and visit us. Okay, it's 12:37. Any more questions?
Sorry, can't hear you.
Thank you so much for coming in. You have a question?
Thank you.
Okay. An assessment from the coastal engineer and the structural engineer. It was a great group, great questions. We're gonna host the next one, February 11th, March 11th. But in the meantime, my hope is that a lot of you visit us and we get a lot more approvals in the next month, and hopefully we have a lot more. I'm not gonna call a number, but we have a lot more. Yes, we have to.